Grab your cocktail and get ready for this episode of the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast. Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian, and I'm excited to introduce our guest because he's going to talk about a topic, and a lot of our long-term listeners are going to know why this is an important topic to me and other Masons. He's going to talk about and do a little bit of a presentation on guarding the West Gate. So non-Masons, what that means is basically protecting who's coming in your organization. So without further ado, Brother Dave Yonts, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Again, like I said earlier, I appreciate you reaching out to me. It's really an honor to be on here.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the folks you've had on your podcast, and it's really a cool thing that you're doing. I appreciate it.
I got to tell you, once everyone hears you, they're going to say, holy hell, how come we haven't heard about this dude before? But before we get into that, Dave, what we like to do on the podcast, we like to know as much about the man as we do the Mason. So give us a quick bio of who you are, the man. Push Masonry to the side for a second.
Well, as a man, I'm retired law enforcement, retired from the sheriff's department here in Wichita County in Texas, not Kansas. Got tired of being retired and went into painting. So now I am pretty much a full-time painter. My wife is a retired school teacher, so she's home now and I'm gone.
Well, that saves the marriage, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. I'm out of trouble. I can't get in trouble if she's at home and I'm somewhere else.
I love it. Now, for clarification, you're not a painter like Bob Ross, the painter. You're doing like homes.
Homes. Yeah, you don't want to give me a little tiny brush and ask me to paint. You don't want me doing that.
All right, just I want to be clear. Whatever you want to do, just want to make sure the audience knows.
Right.
So walk us through your Masonic journey. How long have you been a Mason? Have you held any offices? What lodge? What other bodies? Walk us through that.
Well, I'm a member of Faith Lodge number 1158, Past Master, 2016, 2017. Member of our York Rite body here in Wichita Falls. Been a Mason since 1989. Started in 88. Went through my degrees. Got raised in 89, and I have held pretty much every office except for the stewards and the South.
Okay.
So I've been in every office. I started because my grandfather had, when we're kids, we want to get a hold of stuff or mess with stuff that we really shouldn't mess with.
Of course. Forbidden fruit.
Right, exactly. So in the 60s, my grandfather had an emblem bolted to his bumper. And I kept going on there and messing with it. And over the years, I learned what it was, and it was a square and compass that he had bolted to his bumper. And it really got me to wondering, what is that? What is it all about? And I kept asking him, and he said, I can't talk to you. And he'd turn around and walk away. My dad was a Mason out of Alabama.
Okay.
And I kept asking him. And he also said, can't talk to you about it. And then one day I just went to him and said, Dad, what does it take to be a Mason? He said, you just took the first step, son. Boom. And from that point on, and this was probably 1986, 87.
Yeah.
And I joined Faith Lodge here and got hooked up to a fantastic instructor that got me through all the degrees. And now I'm here going around trying to spread a little bit more light.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So how many lodges are in Wichita Falls?
Boy, I should know that. 5, I believe.
5, okay.
In Wichita County. There's only 2 in Wichita Falls proper.
Got you. We probably have 9 in our county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but our MSA is probably closer to 500,000 people. So Yeah, I think
Nice.
we're 350,000 in the city limits, but our MSA is probably closer to 500,000. Somebody who likes to fact check me on there, fact check it. So, but anyway, all right. So now, we want you to get to your topic on guarding the West Gate, and I want to turn the floor over. I want to sit back, put my old arms back, and just let you tell us what we're doing wrong and what we need to do better, my friend.
All right. Very good. All right, folks. I want you to buckle up because we are going to talk about a subject tonight that, in my opinion, is just absolutely not talked about near enough. This is the reason why I chose this topic 3 years ago, because it is that important to me on how we should be doing it. So, first of all, I want to start off by giving my email address. guardthewestgate@gmail.com.
I'll put it across the bottom, folks. Just look across the bottom of the screen. You'll see it.
Fantastic. Now, I started this educational journey on July 8th of 2021. The information that's contained in this program was compiled by Brother Rip Moore, Fort Worth Lodge number 148, and myself. Now, I want to ask a question here. Is being an example a good or a bad thing? Think about that. We'll come back to it. Now, I'm not here this evening to tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. I'm here tonight to shed some light on some things that I have found over the years that have worked for me, and that the Grand Lodge of Texas says that we should, when we're doing investigations, should be doing. Now, this program was originally a discussion group program. Now, the questions that I'm going to be asking is going to be more for like the look that you just had. It's going to be more for contemplation. Now, I want to start this program with a quote by a past Grand Master for everybody to contemplate. More damage has been done to lodges with white balls than that of black cubes. Now, I want you to think about that. Do you agree with it or do you not? One of the first lodges I delivered this program to was to Vernon Lodge number 655. Now, afterwards, a brother stood up and began to talk to us and began to tell us how he felt that he should have never been made a Mason, simply on how the process worked. Now, let me ask you, if a person is wearing a badge, does that automatically make them worthy and well qualified?
No, of course not.
Okay. Now, don't just look for things that are wrong. Look also for things that are right with the petitioner. For my brothers in Texas, I urge each of you to go to your secretary and ask him to furnish you with the Grand Lodge of Texas's Investigational Standards Manual that was revised in February of 2023. Now, I'm sure other states out there all have their own type of investigation manual. Please reach out and grab that. Here are a few things that Masons tell non-Masons who are seeking access to our fraternity or joining our fraternity. Now, I want you to listen to these things. We are an exclusive fraternity. We only allow good men. We only allow good men of good moral character and a good background. And it's not easy to become a member. Now, listen to those words that I just said. It's not easy to become a member. And then we do just the opposite. We will give a petition on a first visit, and then a group of Masons will go over after the petition is filled out, and everybody will sign it. And then it will be turned in without anybody knowing who this person is. What is the last question the senior deacon asked the master of ceremonies in the EA degree? Think about that. What is the last part of that answer? Now, what that says to me is how does it relate, and also how it relates to what we're talking about today, is that it brings to light the fact that we are to be doing a proper and full investigation on all our petitioners. If we don't, then how can it be of good report? It's not just the senior warden's responsibility to guard the gate where he sits. We all should be watching that door as brethren walk in to make sure that everybody is properly clothed and vouched for, duly and truly prepared. If we are not satisfied, or if you are not satisfied, speak up. Stand up and answer the question, are you satisfied? I am not satisfied. The trends of the data found, compound with our own experiences at Lodge, has had many wondering if there is some mysterious connection the West Gate has to the vitality of our fraternity, beyond the obvious of keeping out the riffraff. Be particularly attentive not to recommend him. In other words, be careful who you recommend. Where can we find that statement? It's said all the time, but do we really, really listen to those words? We can find that statement in the EA charge as one of the last things written and said to an entered apprentice at the end of his degree. Being only masters can sign a petition. Why is that statement found in the EA charge and not the masters? In my opinion, it highlights how important we are to be allowing new members into our fraternity, to the end that the honor, glory, and reputation may be firmly established and the world at large convinced of its good effects. That is the last thing in the EA charge said to the EA after his degree. It is imperative we thoroughly investigate and initiate only men that can not only hold, but grow our standards. Otherwise, we will have a tough enough time convincing anybody of our good effects. Grand Lodge law requires that a petitioner provide 3 references from this grand jurisdiction or from a grand jurisdiction recognized by the Grand Lodge of Texas. Now, these Masons must be in good standing. They are also required to have 2 recommenders that must be from the lodge that they are petitioning. Masonic references and recommenders can be the best source of obtaining valuable information about the petitioner, good or bad. Because they are Masons, the investigator should be able to explore all areas of the petitioner's background without having to tread lightly. Now, something very important. These Masons must know the petitioner and not be Masons who have little or no knowledge of the character of the petitioner.
We've all seen it. We've all seen people come in, hey, you give me a second line on this.
Exactly. We lay down a piece of paper and everybody runs because they're going after one thing. They're going after numbers.
Yep.
We need numbers.
Yep. Hey, let me just tell you, I've been guilty of it. Because trust the guy. Yeah. I'm
you know that saying, preaching to the choir.
Yep.
Well, I'm here delivering this program to y'all, and I'm guilty of it. I've done it.
Yep, me too.
Have I done it in the last 3 years? No, I have not, because I've started to see the importance and the downside to what that does.
Well, because you're essentially signing the petition saying, I vouch for this dude, and you really don't know them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, someone vouched for someone in a lodge in our county. That person ended up having a record, and they ended up not showing up to his degree, and everybody kept calling and calling and calling, and he never would answer his phone until I saw him one day at a convenience store. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't show up." He said, "But I went to jail for possession."
Oh, man.
And that is, that woke me up. It's like, wow, we really got to be doing better.
Yep.
So now, you remember that brother I told you about that said he should have never been made a Mason?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the reason he felt that way is he was a peace officer, and his boss was also a Master Mason. And he came up to him, told him, he said, "Hey, I think you'll be a pretty good Mason." So he went and got a petition. He filled it out, laid it down on his desk, had the petitioner fill out his information, went and got others who came and signed it.
He didn't even fill his own petition out.
Oh, no. He was sitting there while they were doing it for him. And he was sitting back, just watching everybody. Everybody was coming in the office. Everybody signing it. They picked it up, turned it into the lodge. The next thing he knew, he was going through his EA degree. And now he's a Master Mason. Now, just because this process was done wrong, should this brother be made to feel like he should not have been made a Mason?
Nope. He doesn't know any different.
He didn't know. We do.
Yep.
It's up to us to do with the information what we are taught to do.
Yep.
The onus is on us. Yep. So, no, absolutely not. He should not be made to feel this way. So, the next thing, like I said, he knew, he was going through his EA degree. Yet one of the first things that we are taught is that it is the internal and not the external qualifications recommend a man to be made a Mason. Now, I am happy to say that this brother is now a member of Faith Lodge number 1158 in Wichita Falls, Texas, and he is thriving in our lodge as well as in the York Rite. So he made a good decision. It's just the way the process was done incorrectly.
Yeah.
It's not anybody's fault. It's just how it's all. I hate the saying, it's how it's always been done.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, somebody would give you this counter argument. Yeah, but see, Dave, if we didn't fill it out and do it the way we did it, he may have never been a Mason today. Somebody might have that, and I think it's a flawed counter argument, but I could see somebody trying to throw that. Now, listen, and again, anybody that watches this channel, we need to be protecting the West Gate, and I'm 100% in line with you so far. But I can see that counter argument out there.
It is there.
Nobody should be completing somebody else's petition. That's a problem.
First of all, he's a peace officer. We know he can write because he writes tickets.
Sure.
So we know he can fill in the blank. Sure. So the counter argument to that, what you just said, is if we hadn't done it this way, he would have never been made a Mason.
Okay.
How do you know that?
That's right.
You tell me how you know that, because you could have had him fill out his petition, gone and participated in lodge activities, come to lodge meals, meet the guys, and then after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, I've heard in the Philippines, it can be up to 5 years before you're made a Mason.
Yep.
Once you go through that process.
The Swedish Rite is 20 years, just so you know.
Yeah, there you go. And we complain about our dues of 125, 150. The Philippines, it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know that is because I just did this presentation at the Dallas York Rite for Lightfoot Lodge, and they had a lot of members that are Filipino.
Yep.
And they were telling me about how things are done over there. And honestly, it's the way it should be done here.
Yep.
Maybe not to that degree, to where, we're talking 5 years, 6 months, 3 months, whenever the lodge feels comfortable, then move them along. And I've got this is going to lead into more. This is kind of a segue to what I'm leading up to here in just a little bit. Okay, so now Article 393. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to pass that up because that is Texas law book.
Yeah, we'll keep it.
I forgot. You're in Kansas. I'm here, so can't help. I'm sorry, I can't help you there. But anyway, a quote from Brother Darren Coates, a Master Mason of Lawton Lodge, number 183 in Lawton, Oklahoma. It was the proudest day in my life to be handed my petition. His petition was handed to him after a month of him going to visit and eat dinner with the members of that lodge prior to the lodge meeting, as well as participating in lodge activities. Now, he was basically getting to know them while they were getting to know him. This was done despite the majority of those members already knew him, but they had a process, and they stuck to that process, and I applaud them for that.
Yep.
Now, here are a few stats. From 1901 up to the mid to late 70s, on average, we rejected around 15% of prospects.
Wow.
During that same time frame, and on average, 80% or more of EAs progressed to be a Master Mason. For over 70 years, our percentages remained steady, so why the change? Now, here are two random decades that I chose. From 1945 to 1955, the average candidate blackballed was 17%. During that same time frame, the average EA to Master Mason progression was 90%.
Wow.
Now, this will blow you away. From 2006 to 2016, the average candidate blackballed was 3%. That same time frame, the average EA to Master Mason progression was 69%. Now, why do you think we reject far fewer candidates now than we do before? Could it simply be because now majority of the petitioners are worthy? Could it be we do not know the candidate enough to have enough information to blackball him? Now let's go back to a statement made by a past Grand Master. More damage has been done to lodges with white balls than that of black cubes. Do those numbers support what the past Grand Master's message was? I say absolutely it does. For far too long, it seems like we have been indirectly encouraged to focus our efforts on quantity and not quality. But this is not the route we need to take. This is a short-sighted fix, and we are actually living in the consequences of quantity over quality. In Brother George Washington's words, associate yourself with men of good character if you esteem your own reputation. For it is better to be alone than in bad company. Now, what that says to me is this, is surround yourself with good men, and quantity and quality will come naturally. For instance, I was asked by the master of Anton Jones, number 1460 in Friendswood, down in South Houston, to deliver this program. My wife and I got in the car and we headed south, which is about 5 hours from me. without having to worry about where we will sleep. Because Brother Dean Bryant and his wife Janet had invited us into their home to stay with them for the entirety of our stay. Now that, my brothers, is the true definition of surrounding yourself with those of good character.
Yep.
Gone are the days of the employer loyalty and political honesty, which has greatly eroded trust in any organization. On average, families move every 7 years, but this was not the case in early America. In those days, everyone knew everyone. And for that matter, the whole town knew that Jimmy Jack Six-Pack was a drunk and had no business being a Mason. And nowadays, people...
Hold on. Jimmy Jack Six-Pack.
Jimmy Jack Six-Pack was a drunk and had no business being a Mason. The whole town knew it.
Hold on. I got a drink to that. Oh my gosh. Jimmy Jack Six-Pack. I've got to use that somehow.
You're welcome to it.
Oh my God.
You're welcome to it. Nowadays, people live in the same house for years and they never, ever really get to know their neighbors. Now, I want you to think about that.
Yep.
When you walk out your front door, do you really know your neighbors? Do you know your neighbor 3 doors down? If you don't, then how do you know a random person in your town?
Yeah.
Something to think about. This makes it especially important to do a proper and thorough investigation on all the petitioners that petition your lodge. One of the biggest opportunities I feel we miss with the question and answer catechisms, as well as the petitioning process, is what I want to talk about next. And it's basically referring to a rite of passage. Now, I want you to think about this, and you can answer this. What is an example of a rite of passage?
You're talking maybe turning 18 and being able to vote.
There you go. You're getting your driver's license. Something as simple as that. That is a rite of passage. You turned an age and you were able to start doing something.
Right.
So, now I want to refer back to Brother Darren Coates' quote when he said it was the proudest moment of his life. Now, think about that. Why is that? What was so important about it? Why did it mean so much to him? It's simple.
It wasn't handed to him.
Because he felt like he earned something.
Yep.
He was made to overcome obstacles.
It was never guaranteed in his eyes. He thought, man, I'm going to have to come until I win these guys over, right?
He walked in and said, Darren, we've known you for 10 years, but you need to fill this out, and there are a few things that you've got to do before we can move this along down the line.
Yep. Don't make it so easy.
Don't make it so easy.
Yep.
If it's not for them, guess what? That's fine. It's better you find out now than 3 years from now.
Well, if they can't show up once a month to dinner with the guys, how are they going to show up once a month to lodge?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great
You
point.
may get their money one time. The first year you'll get their money, but you'll probably never get any more money from them, and you'll probably never see them again.
And because you haven't created that habit either. So, yeah, I feel you.
Exactly. So, all right. Let me see. Now, in my opinion, and I think you'll agree with me on this, it is a solemn and serious occasion. This is not just something that's being handed to you. It is something you have to work for. And you know as well as I do that if you have to work for something, it's going to mean a whole lot more to you when it's done.
Yep.
Ultimately, after a rite of passage is performed, you are not the same person. In some cultures, the rite is so profound you even received a new name or title, like brother. Think about that, folks. You get a new title, brother. Could our candidate and investigation process, and the questions and answers for that matter, be considered a rite of passage? Well, you don't learn this stuff, you're not going to move to the next level.
Right.
So absolutely, it is a rite of passage. But it certainly can't be if we get them to breeze over it or get them to parrot meaningless words. If the candidate is never made to feel he has to overcome an obstacle or learn something, then how could it be a rite of passage, much less a special event? I mean, if an unknown candidate gets the petition and it's voted on at the next stated meeting, this process does not reflect any part of a rite of passage. Also, our standard for completing our work, one is especially as important as allowing new members, certainly has an effect on the candidate as to what standards he sets for himself in the future in regards to the craft that he is seeking membership into. In other words, if you choose something is or is not important, others tend to believe you. Do you feel that the rejection of candidates and the EA progressing could be connected in some way? If so, how? Could it allude to the change of seriousness of the process of investigating? Could it refer to the regression of standards that is more systemic than that we are willing to admit or can even see? Could it be telling us that up to the late 70s, our process worked great, but things progressed, and we need to progress as we always have? When talking with a prospect or petitioner, ask yourself these questions. Is this man truly worthy and well qualified? Would I welcome this man into my home? Would I leave this man alone with my wife? Would I want this man to marry my daughter? Would I trust my life to this man? Will this man be a credit to the fraternity? And is this man sufficiently literate to be able to grasp and retain the precepts of Freemasonry? Finally, and most importantly, are his motives for becoming a Mason good? Let's face it, the only way we can truly answer any of these questions is to get to know the man before we hand him a petition. Every lodge should use discretion in their investigation of all petitioning members, regardless of the relationship with other Masons. What would you say are some good tactics to get to know an unknown prospect's reputation or moral character? For me, time is essential. For me, it's time. How much time do we spend investigating? When I'm on the investigating committee, I will spend at least an hour or more in their home speaking to him and his spouse. Now, that's just me. Nothing saying that you have to spend that much time, but I ask questions that elicit a response that gets him to ask more questions. Think about that. You keep asking questions that elicit responses, they're going to continue to ask more questions. That's going to allow you to get to know the man. Yep. Usually, they are questions that he has already heard are answered on the petition, I just reword them.
Assuming he's filled out his own petition.
True. You got me there. All right. Let's go back to the top. Number 1, have him fill out his own petition, folks.
Right.
I need to put that in here. Number 1.
Right?
Like I said, I just reword these questions. Will allow you to see if he answers the same question in the same manner.
It's a basic investigation technique, whether you're interrogating prisoners or suspects. You're repackaging the same question.
Exactly. I did that when I worked in the jail of our county here. When I talk to people, I talk to one this way. And I would go over and talk to another completely opposite, but asking the same questions.
Yep.
They just didn't know I was asking the same questions.
Sure.
We're not trying to trick them. We just want to make sure the heart.
Yep.
Heart and mind of the man.
Yeah. And, one question may be perceived as leading to another where it wouldn't be to the other person as well. And you have to be careful with leading questions as much as anything.
Well, Brian, let me ask you this. How many times have you gone into a home to investigate a petitioner only to have him sit there and not speak?
Well, that's a bad investigator that allows that to happen.
Correct.
Yep.
So what I do, I've had that happen.
Sure, I have too.
Where the person, it just sits there, doesn't say anything. And that phrase or that statement or that word, the phrase where the people say a conversational piece, like they may have something on a wall or on the table.
Yeah.
Just something to make conversation.
Right.
Look around your surroundings. You're in their home. Look around. See something. Like me, I wish I could turn the camera and show you my cast iron because I collect cast iron.
Yeah, but that's a conversation starter.
I see you collect cast iron. I do. Well, I cook with cast iron every single day. You may spend 10 minutes talking about cast iron, but it's going to lead to 45 minutes of him opening up.
Yep.
Because he's comfortable.
Yep.
He's resolved. He's just kind of, all right, I'm comfortable with this guy. Now I can say the things I really want to say.
Yeah. And then, hey, later, you love cast iron. Wait till you go through your degrees. You're going to find out some great characters in our history that you're going to love.
There you go. It's all about getting into their mindset.
Yep.
You're in their home, so now you need to get into their mindset. You don't just sit down and just start reading. Right. Don't do that. Nobody likes that.
That's not a good investigator.
You're there to carry on a conversation.
Yep.
And I'm not saying go in and trick them. I'm saying go in and carry on a conversation with them. Talk to them like they're your buddy.
Because
they're wanting to come into your fraternity.
They will be your brother later. Maybe.
Exactly.
Right. So start that relationship off right.
Exactly. So now where we do the investigating is crucial. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, in their home.
Absolutely. You go on their turf.
Exactly. Also with their spouse included.
Same. My investigator actually spoke more to my wife and daughters than he did to me because he had already talked to me for hours. He was focused that they knew what I was getting into and that, listen, it's not anything nefarious. You can trust when your husband or your dad is at lodge, it's for good.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So if the spouse cannot be there, make every attempt.
Yep.
To reschedule for when she can be there. And the reason why you're doing this is it's very important, as it will give you an opportunity to answer her questions. And believe me, she will have them.
Yep.
If she doesn't, you need to elicit those questions.
Yep.
How do you feel about your husband's wanting to join Masonry?
Yep. I remember a lady, we had a guy came in, we investigated him. His wife was still uneasy after talking to her. So what we did, we have a shrine center in Wichita, which has our own private restaurant and bar. So before he came in, we invited him and her up and our spouses. So she was actually able to talk with it wasn't the official investigation, but it always is, right? She was able to talk to the spouses and said, oh, okay. She was able to get it from a different angle. So I guess the point is, to your point, if you're not vibing with the spouse, there are other ways to get her comfortable too, because at the end of the day, if folks are sharing funds and that check needs to come out at the end of the year, she needs to be bought in too, so it doesn't create some sort of a wedge.
Exactly. That's part of it. Yep. And it also, if she's not comfortable, if she doesn't have all the answers,
yep, the mind work,
then yes, you may have a good Mason sitting right there in front of you, but you will never see him.
Yes, sir.
Because the wife is not informed. She does not have all the information. So inform her, answer all her questions, and once you have, then you move on.
Yep.
Go on to other questions.
Yep.
But keep her in the loop. Don't just have her sitting over to the side listening to you talk to him.
Yep.
She could be in the room, in her room, watching Lifetime.
Yeah, I could argue this, if we are doing it the right way. So let's go back to the brother in Oklahoma. He was coming to dinner for months with the guys. He finally got the petition signed. I would argue we've got a good vibe on him. We might need to focus on the significant other, maybe as much on her as anything, because we've already got a good pulse on him. Now we have to get her comfortable and understand, get her questions answered.
What do we have waiting in the wings for her?
There are a lot of options, but we need to let her know that we're just not taking your guy away from you for 1, 2, 8 nights a month. There are some other opportunities maybe for you and your children too, should you be interested.
Yeah, you've got the Yorker, you've got the Eastern Star.
Daughters of the
Nile,
the
Rainbow Girls,
Oriental Shrine, Rainbow Girls, DeMolay. There's so many things. Job's Daughters.
Exactly. There are so many things that are out there that people aren't aware of. But if you make them aware of it, the wife is going to go, you know what? Now that I think about it, my mom and my grandmother were in the Eastern Star.
Right.
I would like to continue that.
Yeah. I think to your point, it's important when you do the investigation, if at all possible, you need to make sure that the significant other is present. I think that will help with the longevity of that Mason as well.
Exactly.
I think I can make a strong case for that.
Happy life or happy wife?
Yep.
Happy wife. Yep. Oh, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. All right. So I forgot where I was. Now, we can also find out a great deal about a person when we look at their social media. See how he interacts. There is nothing wrong with that. You're not spying.
No.
You're going on there. Okay, let's see how he interacts with people when someone disputes with him about, I can't believe I'm saying this, about how the Dallas Cowboys did this last weekend.
Oh, man.
How does he react?
They did horribly. They still have a team? They still have a team?
I don't know. Not really. Not really. They show up.
Oh, well.
They show up.
There you
go. Eat with him on neutral ground.
Yep.
Go have coffee with him. And by all means, talk to his friends. You may know people that he knows. Talk to him. Say, hey, what can you tell me about this guy? I just need some little tidbits. What can you tell me?
Yeah.
Anything I need to be worried about.
Yeah. And if they ask, why are you asking? Hey, he's petitioned to be a Mason. And you might have just sparked somebody else.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know that saying, plant a seed?
Yeah.
That seed may start growing in 5 years or in 10 minutes. He just may go, wait a minute.
Especially if he loves the guy, he can be like, whoa, wait a minute. He's coming in and I didn't know about it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He said, wait a minute. We were supposed to come in together, so how can I get a petition?
All right.
Well, let's you and I talk. But right now, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep him on task.
Yep.
Now, background checks. At the very least, ask his consent to do one. Even if you don't plan to do it,
It's required required in Kansas. It's an electronic background check that has to be submitted with the petition.
There you go.
Yep. So I don't know about the other jurisdictions, but it's $19.95, $20. They fill out the petition and they send in a background check, and it comes back. It's in a sealed envelope, and when it's turned, the secretary is the only one that looks at the background check, and basically it's verifying what's on the petition. And they can say, "Hey, we're background check. It's verified. Now read the petition and lodge."
There you go. Perfect.
When we launched that, Dave, in 2012, people lost their damn mind. Oh my God, we're going to lose members. They're not going to join. And my comment was, I said, I just assumed when I came in, I had a background check done anyway. So what's the problem? And it's $20. If the $20 is the problem, they shouldn't be a Mason anyway because they don't have their affairs in order. I don't want to know if somebody's telling me something that it's the truth, because things have changed. I have a daughter in the law enforcement world, and what's changed is back in the day, you could say, "Hey, buddy, will you check up this person?" They could do it. You can't do that now. It's actually a crime. No. Well, at least in our parts, it's a felony.
It's a felony now because you're accessing not only your state records, which is a state crime.
Yep.
Which could be a state jail felony.
Checking everything.
But when you're accessing NCIC, which I taught NCIC and TCIC here in Texas.
Yep.
And if you're accessing NCIC, now you're accessing federal documents, which makes it a federal crime. So
the days of background checks might have been done in some weird way back in the day, right?
It was nothing back in the day to make a phone call and say, "Hey, could you do this?"
But I would argue now it's just as easy. Because the strokes, the keyboard strokes, you can find out a lot about people. And it's not really that big of a deal. I like the background checks personally. I know there are some of our listeners that probably think it's the dumbest thing in the world, but all I'm asking is, I don't know this person up front. Even if you spent 3, 10, 12 meals with the person, what do you really know that happened 10 years ago? I just want to know that everyone's being up front with me. We had a person that was in our lodge for quite some time, and we found out that when he petitioned, some other stuff had happened. He had flat out lied on his damn petition even then. So
exactly. Now, the way I look at it is, if you do it on one, you have to and should do it on all. You can't 100%. Pick and choose.
No way. I agree.
Here in Texas, we can utilize the Texas DPS website. I think it costs us $3, and we get a Texas background check.
Yep.
We don't get anything else, because when you go online and you pay that $19.95 or whatever, what ends up happening is that some of these sites can violate the Fair Credit Reporting Act, because you're not only getting their background, you're also getting their financial background. Which we don't want. I don't want any part of that.
Nope. Yeah, ours is straight criminal.
We don't want any part of your financial stuff. You tell us you're good on finances, well, that is something that we're going to have to take you at your word, because I'm not looking into it.
Well, that's a whole nother set of how do you store that information once you have it. There's some data protection. There's a whole set of things now in the 21st century that the way we used to be loose with data, sticking stuff in file cabinets, we should probably be handling it differently now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, that'd be a pretty good, that'd be another good presentation to have.
Yeah.
Is data protection.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't think of it much.
Now, one of the things I do is I ask open-ended questions.
You should.
And then I listen. When we are getting to know him, more times than not, they're getting to know us. The question is what we need to be asking is, why do you want to become a Mason? Ask an open-ended question. Ask a question that requires a response.
That's other than yes or no.
Exactly. Other than a yes or no, and then you type it down. He said yes. He said no. No, ask that. Why do you want to become a Mason? The more more often as a family member is or was.
What intrigued you? What are you looking to get out of it? What do you
exactly?
What do you bring? I think it's a fair question. What will you bring to Freemasonry? We're going to tell
that
you
is a very good question.
What do you bring? We're going to say we make good men better, but what are you bringing to the fraternity to help make us better? I think that question should be asked more often.
That is a very good question. What can you bring?
Yeah, what do you bring? We're already going to say we're going to bring the smoke. We're going to make you better. We're going to talk how, but what do you bring? What are you going to add value to us?
Because that's how this works. It's not just me making you better.
It's us, the collective.
You are in turn making us better.
Yeah, I don't think we flex enough on that. And when they say, hey, well, I don't think it's wrong for a petitioner to say, well, what do I get out of Masonry? I don't think that's an unfair question. I know some people have issues with that, but I think it's fair because I would turn and say, well, this is what we'll do. We have fellowship, camaraderie. We have all this, that, and the other. But let me ask you now, what do you bring to us? What are you going to do to make us better? I'd love to flip the script on people.
That's a really good way of asking an open-ended question, because what are you going to do for us? And you sit back and go, I'm waiting.
Yep. Yeah. Your body language, the science of proximity, everything you can do to change everything.
The key thing is that we're not there to be buddy-buddy.
Nope.
We're not there to be rude.
We're on a mission.
But, and I'm sorry for the Elks out there. We are not the Elk Lodge.
Nope.
Where we take everybody.
Nope.
We are a very, very tight-knit fraternity and have been for a long, long time.
And you said it earlier.
And it's up to us to continue that.
Yep. And you said it earlier, we must be more exclusive. And Jim Rumsey on his episode said we must be more exclusive. And exclusivity does not mean money. It goes back to guarding the West Gate. We just don't need to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry come into the fraternity if we want to be exclusive.
You're absolutely right.
Quality brings in quantity. Quality brings quantity. Quantity doesn't bring quality. I'll argue that forever.
I was at the Dallas Scottish Rite building this a couple weeks ago, or about a week or so ago, and someone said something similar to that. And I just went, you know what? My job is done.
Yep.
I've done what I've needed to do. I opened your eyes. That's all I wanted to do. I'm not here to tell you what you're doing wrong or right. I'm just here to give you an insight to what I'm saying and let you pick from that.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing. You're picking from that, and you're picking very, very good topics to focus on.
So as we go to kind of wrap up guarding the West Gate, because you have given us so much information, what are the one or two things you want our listeners to walk away with? And what's the open-ended questions that our listeners, that you want to push to them and make them think about as they're guarding the West Gate?
One of the things that you said is when we're asking questions, you're asking them, what can you do for us? What do you expect to get out of Masonry?
Yep.
Why are you petitioning my lodge? I want to know. Please tell me, give me your answers, and then I'm writing down. Focus in on the whys, guys. Focus in on the whys, and you will find out. You start asking the right questions, you're going to start getting to the heart of the man.
Yep.
It's just, not everybody's the same. Everybody's a little bit different, so finding those right questions is a little bit more difficult. One of the things that
I want our listeners to know this. I'm throwing Dave's email address again across the bottom. If you want a list of some sample questions, I'm going to put Dave on the spot, but I would bet if you'd email him, he would email you back 4 or 5 or 6 open-ended questions that you can use. I'm quite certain that Dave would do that.
Oh yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat. I'll do it. I'll do it. Send me an email. I'll be happy to do it. One of the things that I like to say is, and it's a Greek philosopher, Epictetus, once said, and this holds true for us, is you cannot hope to make progress in areas where you have taken no action. Take action, folks. This is your lodge. This is your fraternity. Grab hold of these folks and make sure they are a right fit. If they are not the right fit, then move on. Just because someone's petitioned your lodge does not mean you have to take them.
I agree. And I got to tell you, that is the line that I think that everyone should end with and walk away with. Dave, thanks for joining the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast. Cheers, my friend.
Brian, thank you for having me here tonight. It has been a pleasure.